God, they've done it again, haven't they? They've released another product. Wasn't it only 5 minutes ago that Luminar AI was released? And here we are today. Skylum have announced another Luminar product, Luminar NEO. What is it all about? What does it mean? Why have they done that? That's what we're going to look at in this video. For those of you in a rush, here's my quick summary on Luminar NEO. It's going to be a faster engine, which is still going to be built around AI tools, which is going to enable more creativity. It's going to be bringing back layers, so it's going to be more similar to something like Photoshop. That infamous masking technology that's enabled them to bring us bokeh AI, we're now going to be able to use those masks in other applications, so we can swap out backgrounds and more creative things like that. And the actual core of the program has been rewritten to bring it up to par with the advanced technologies that AI is. In the past, Skylum were trying to build a sports car around a bicycle, but they've done away with the bicycle, and the actual under the hood is actually going to support the AI much better. So we're going to have a smoother performance, we're going to have better results, and we're going to have more creative flexibility. So Luminar NEO very much looks like it's geared for people like myself who actually really enjoy the editing process and really want to take their work that little bit further, whereas Luminar AI was always more geared to getting good results but getting them done nice and easily, efficiently, and just kind of holding your hand in the whole editing process. That's the quick overview, but now let's go a little bit deeper. So it's pretty cool. Skylum invited me to a webinar where they were sharing information about the new product, Luminar NEO. So in spite of the fact that I'm right in the middle of a very big client project at the moment, I've paused that, I parked it up, and I spent the time necessary to learn about Luminar NEO so that I could share that with you guys. It was a long webinar, it's like an hour and a half, and I went old school and I made notes. Very possibly the first question you've got, like me, was what's going to happen to Luminar AI? Is it replacing it? The answer is no. They're just extending the family of products they have. For example, in the same way that Adobe have a suite of products for editing images, they've got Adobe Photoshop, Photoshop Elements, Photoshop Lightroom, Classic, CC. You know, they've got all these different options for people, and they suit different people with different purposes in their image editing. And that's kind of the approach that Skylum are taking here. Luminar AI is an excellent editor, but it very much has a focus on new photographers, people just getting started out and who may be slightly intimidated with editing. And it gives you so many options for improving your photos, but doing that very, very easily. So Luminar AI, great for new photographers. And as you know from watching my tutorials, I really love using Luminar AI, but sometimes I get frustrated because I want to go just a little bit deeper. For those of you out there like me who actually just genuinely really love the photo editing process, like I can lose myself in Photoshop, for example. I can be there for hours and I really enjoy that whole process. Well, they're building Luminar NEO more akin to Photoshop. They're bringing back layers. The AI tools that they're going to be embedding into it, they're going to be modular. How to explain this? I'm trying to explain an hour and a half webinar to you guys in as quick a time as I possibly can. Right, let's give it a go. Luminar NEO is going to be more akin to Photoshop, but with the AI and neural technologies that Skylum have developed over these last few years. So it's going to be really great for creatives and also professionals. Okay, I've gone to my book because this was one of the things that really caught my attention. It's not one of the headline features, but this came from the mouth of the CEO of the company, and he stressed that Luminar NEO is going to be able to deliver higher quality, more professional results. And for me, that's a big deal. The way that they're actually setting up under the hood, they're going to be building each of the tools in a modular way. So each tool is independent of the other. So if when you use Luminar AI, for example, and you start making changes, you guys will notice this from my more in-depth tutorials. The further we take the edit and the more tools that we add, one on top of the other on top of the other, because every single change that you make within Luminar AI, it has to be stored into memory. If you go back in time and make a change to another tool, every other tool that we've added to that edit has to be reprocessed, recalculated, and so that can just really bog down the computer and bog down the system. So the developers at Skylum have actually been able to come up with a way to have these tools working independently, yet together all at the same time. It's a modular approach. Because the tools are independent of one another, the actual quality of the processing that goes into each tool, the level of the result can actually be enhanced and improved. For example, the bokeh AI tool that they've recently released for Luminar AI, the concept and the technology behind it is really great. It's a really clever tool. However, the results aren't always perfect. Sometimes they're pretty shoddy, in fact, whereas other times it's really good. Well, the approach that they're taking with NEO will actually enable those type of tools, those AI-driven tools, to perform much better. That's what I'm told, and that's what I'm really excited about. It was a first for me today, and I'm getting this information to you guys as quickly as I can, so I hope you appreciate it. Man, it's 9:45 on a Friday night in New Zealand. Everyone else is probably out partying or doing what other people do on a Friday night, and I'm recording a video on Luminar NEO. Whew. Takes me back to what my dad used to say to me. You want to get a life, boy. With this new release, Luminar NEO, Skylum have of course announced there will be some new exciting AI tools, but the two key headline things for me are a huge step forward with the performance. That is a massive thing for me, and the fact that they're touting that the results will be much more refined, much more professional, high quality. I really like the sound of that. In a second, we'll take a look at their website and I'll show you some of the new tools that they have available in Luminar NEO. But before I do that, I just wanted to bring to your attention that they are doing an early bird promotion, and they announced that they were going to have 30,000 copies available at a massively discounted price. Now, the skeptic in me thought, 30,000 copies, yeah, right, you'll just keep selling them as long as people want to keep buying them. But they've actually got a counter on their webpage. There's a link below. Go to the counter. It started at 30,000 for me at midnight last night, and already at time of recording this, it's down to about 25,000. So that deal is definitely being snapped up by people already. So if you want to get an advance pre-order, save yourself some money, I would go to the link I've got in the description below. I normally have a discount code at Sky10. Try it. I think for the time being, while they're running this best price ever, I don't think that it's going to apply. But if you miss out on that, which is very possible, it's probably going to be gone in under a week. If you miss out on that and you see this video, you can still put in my discount code and save yourself some money there. If you like Luminar AI, if you like the idea of taking your editing to the next level with layers, faster processing, all that sort of stuff that they are promising. So certainly check out that pre-order offer if this looks like something that would be a good fit for you and your photo editing. But for now, let's have a quick look at the tools themselves. Okay, Luminar NEO, create more joy, create more landscapes, create more colors. Okay, so that just looks like a lot of hyperbole at the moment, but here we go. Check this out. Relight any image while keeping it natural. As I bring the classic Luminar before and after slide across this lady's face, this reminds me of something they were speaking about in the webinar that got me actually really excited. There's actually a lot more to it than what they're showing here. They actually spoke about this, and using the same technology that they have in the Atmosphere AI tool, where they can actually sense the depth in a two-dimensional photo, it can still figure out, the AI can figure out the three-dimensionality of that scene. It's going to be able to use that data to relight the scene. So that's pretty insane. So you can actually light your model separately from the background and things like this. They didn't go into too many specifics, but just the very concept and the fact that the capability is there is really exciting. But let's move on. What else are we looking at? Okay, this is a big one. Are you happy with your background? So as I move this slider across, we can see that the background is changing, the color toning on the model is changing to match the background. And why not? This isn't available in Luminar AI at the moment, but as I've thought, and a lot of you astutely pointed out, with the bokeh AI tool, where it can detect and perfectly mask the human to then just blur the background, surely there's more usages of using that mask. It's like, why can't we take that mask of that person and then do more creative things with it? They are going to allow us to do that with Luminar NEO, because it's going to be more kind of Photoshop layer based. We're going to be able to use those AI generated masks and then do things like just switch out the background. Stuff that we've been hoping for all this time with Luminar AI. They're going to step it up with Luminar NEO. Now with this new engine, it's going to be capable of doing that. So big deal. I'm really excited about that. All right. right, let's move on to this one. What if there's dust on your sensor? They now have a tool that is going to automatically recognize what is dust spots, what is dirt on your sensor, and automatically clean it from your photo. And that's actually pretty cool. I created a whole video about how in Photoshop you can create a crazy curve effect, which is going to highlight where those spots are so you can clone and heal them out really simply. Well, I say simply, it was still like a 10-minute video demonstrating how to do that. And if you have a whole load of dust spots on your imagery, that's still time you're having to spend to remove that from your photos. And if it's there on every single photo, say you shot a wedding, some other event, and you have to keep removing that, I mean, firstly, you should be like me and go out with a perfectly clean sensor, because that's what us pros do. But seriously, I saw this in action in the webinar. I saw the before and afters, and it's very impressive. So it might not seem that exciting, but the fact that it's another time-saving tool where you can spend that time on more creative pursuits with your photo, I think that's a really, really cool thing. Okay, as I come down here, this next one, removal of power lines. So apparently there's going to be an automatic tool where potentially with one click, you're just going to be able to get rid of power lines. For me here in New Zealand, all our power lines and everything are underground, so no biggie for me. But I know when I was traveling around Europe, I'd see all this amazing architecture in Vienna and Italy and other places, and it'd just be ruined by all these power lines. So I can imagine for a lot of people in a lot of cities, this is actually going to be a really, really useful tool. Okay, let's scroll down here and see what else we've got. Get more control and experiment freely with layers and AI masking. Okay, so as you see this thing here that I'm waving my mouse over, that very much looks more like the kind of layered approach that we see inside of Photoshop. So we've got textures, we've got a shape layer, you've got sky elements, and incidentally at the moment with the tools you can only use them once, like the augmented sky tool, so you can only put one element into the sky. We are going to be able to use the layers so that we can introduce many different entities. So in terms of compositing, the sky's the limit. Image engine redesigned, memory usage optimized, performance lightning fast. Look, lightning fast performance, that remains to be seen, right? I've never actually personally had too many problems with Luminar AI itself and its performance, but I have quite a beefy machine. I built it specifically for handling image editing. I've never liked the idea of waiting on my machine. My machine should be there and responding instantaneously. So when I do a really, really heavy edit in Luminar AI, and I've used just about every single tool going, then that is when I do start to see a slight lag, and sure, it bugs me. So for those of you that are using machines that struggle earlier than that in the process, the fact that they have optimized things, I think is going to be a massive game changer, and your whole user experience consequentially will be improved, and you'll be like, hey, happy bunny, moving sliders around, and you're actually going to get a real-time response and be much happier with the results. Okay, let's move on to share your ideas straight to mobile. So the idea now is that they're going to have an app which is going to work in unison with your desktop. So Luminar NEO is still going to be a desktop based application, but there's going to be a partner mobile app, and the desktop app, the mobile app, they're going to talk to each other, so it's going to be easier for you to share your work on social media. And as we scroll down to the bottom, okay, you can see already that we get one of 30,000 copies today. They are down to 25,744 and counting. But I just really wanted to bring your attention to what is exciting me the most, which is technologies for professional results. I already use Luminar AI in my professional workflow. Some people argue it's not a professional tool. I found a way to integrate it into my professional work so that I can leverage the AI that is inside of Luminar AI, and I've put together many videos that actually demonstrate that, where I use it as the icing on the cake. But when I'm doing that, I'm using it in conjunction with Lightroom for cataloging my work, Photoshop maybe for some fine polish, and then Luminar AI just for some of those more creative tools. And I'm sort of adding them all together, and the finished polished result, in fact, I'll show you. Okay, this arrived in the post yesterday. This is a very well respected architectural magazine here in New Zealand. Front page, edited in Luminar. You guys may recognize some of these images. For example, this one I did a whole demonstration in Photoshop how I did luminosity blending, but again it was finished in Luminar AI. Every single one of these photos in this article was edited at some point in Luminar AI. back cover, editing Luminar AI. So yes, I use Luminar AI in my professional work all the time, but the way the team at Skylum have touted Luminar NEO and the fact that it says technologies for professional results, and they spoke in depth about how the quality of the results from the tools is going to be improved as well as the performance. I'm actually really excited. So yeah, like I say, if you want to get hold of a copy of this in advance, you can save a lot of money. Pre-order in the link below. As I know more, I'm going to share more with you. So if you want me to keep you updated with Luminar NEO, do me a favor, just write Luminar NEO in the comments. After hearing me talk about an improved engine, improved results, the different tools that I showed you that they're demonstrating on their website, what are you most excited about? Was it one of those, oh, I have a lot of power lines around me, that tool's really going to do it for me? Or are you somebody who has a shed load of dust on your sensor all the time? Is that going to be the game changer for you? Let me know in the comments. Love to hear from you guys. Thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye for now, guys.